आइए
Martin?
यस प्लीज
Martin?
राहुल
सर थोड़े आ जाओ मैंने बोला है
Martin, come. Azhar, come. Just 1 second. Where would you like me?
Right in the middle of it all, Mark.
Oh, goodness me. I don't like being the centre of attraction.
पटना सर प्लीज
right in the front. तुमको चार्ज देना पड़ेगा.
Why is everybody doing it?
cut it.
So we'll all hold it together. माफ बता रहे हैं।
मास्क निकाल देंगे तो
जी बिल्कुल निकाल देंगे।
That's why you got to hold that hand. Short के लिए मास्क निकालेंगे. Okay.
ready wait sir come forward yeah okay
थैंक यू मैडम
one group photo please
Mahesh, what a pleasure. Hi, Pooja ji.
बहुत
What a
मुबारक
pleasure.
आपको.
Thank you, sir.
sir Mahesh एक group photo please
I could figure it. I could figure it out. Thank you.
आइए आप.
सैनिक आइए
आप आओ ना.
सैनिक
नहीं, आप आओ. नहीं, आप आगे चाहिए, please. Come, please.
दुष्यंत चलो.
ये हट सामने
डॉक्टर संजय
हेलो सर.
मैडम
लेके चलो
आ जाइए अब मेरा फोन आपके पास है, आ जाइए। So when do you all start? I mean, when do you all welcome your first
13th
Oh wow, so you start with your first batch then. Wonderful.
आइए प्लीज
wait
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us on stage. Our next guest this afternoon is a lady who courageously wears many hats. An award-winning actor, director, voice-over artist and producer. Besides artistic expression, she's a warm and compassionate human being, extending her support to various other causes. I'd request Ms. Pooja Bhatt to please join us on the dais. I would now like to invite on stage Mr. Narendra Kumar Baldota, Chairman and Managing Director, Baldota Group of Companies. Mr. Baldota is a distinguished entrepreneur whose pioneering efforts in establishing progressive and sustainable development practices in business and in nation building have drawn recognition to the Indian mining sector. He has served as Chairman of Jain International Trade Organization, Mumbai. He is also the Chairman of the Greater Bombay Cooperative Bank Limited. Which has 22 branches in Mumbai. Under Narendra Kumar Baldota's leadership, the Baldota Group of Companies has reached greater heights. Thank you for joining us on stage, sir. I'd now like to invite on stage Dr. Rahul Bajpai, COO Samarpan. Holding a management degree from University of California, Berkeley, Haas School of Business, Dr. Rahul is an experienced healthcare professional with focus on hospital planning and commissioning, along with strategy and business building capabilities. He has over 2 decades of experience in the healthcare industry, handling various leadership roles in India and overseas. Samarpan benefits greatly from his vision, acumen and man management skills to carve a significant niche for itself in the world of de-addiction treatment and recovery. Thank you for joining us on stage, Dr. Bhatt. I would now request Dr. Azhar Hakim, Director, Outpatient Services, to please join us on the dais. Dr. Azhar Hakim is a physician, psychotherapist, and a transformational coach who integrates knowledge technologies from medicine, neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and spirituality to enable individuals and families to create transformative change. With 20 years of professional expertise, Dr. Hakim brings to Samarpan his rich and diverse experience spanning leadership positions in the US and India. Committed to changing lives, Samarpan has been his long cherished goal. Thank you for joining us on the dais, Dr. Hakim. I'd now like to invite on stage. Thank you, Mr. Martin. I would now like to request Dr. Rahul Bajpai to please kickstart the launch with his opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Gayatri. It's a great pleasure to be here today, to be welcoming you all and celebrating the grand opening of Samarpan, a residential de-addiction center for drugs and alcohol. I take this opportunity to welcome the one and only Mr. Mahesh Bhatt, the lovely Ms. Pooja Bhatt, the magnanimous Sri Narendra Baldota ji, dignitaries on the dais, the highly regarded Baldota family and friends, Samarpan Advisory Board members, and the respected doctor community. I also welcome members from the AA-NA community, our media friends, esteemed partners, my corporate colleagues, and each member of this august gathering today. This may be the formal opening ceremony, but the doors of Samarpan have been opened wide and welcoming for a full year now as a counseling center in Mumbai. During this time, our center has become a valued addition to the society and mental health care system in India. Today is the culminating event of a series of major actions that have been ongoing as a part of the vision and mission of our group. But this is not the end here. Rather, we at Samarpan take it our responsibility going forward towards the society. This initiative is aimed at addressing the huge untapped potential in addiction rehabilitation services and making it a world-class facility. We understand that each client rehabilitation journey is unique to their condition, and every client at Samarpan will receive comprehensive care and support specific to the needs so that they can make a smooth transition from rehabilitation to the everyday life they love. We soon going to be a part of the premier global community through upcoming and proposed accreditation programs, and we look forward to serving those in need of medical rehabilitation. Sometimes challenges and struggles are exactly what we need in our lives. May you welcome every effort, every struggle and every challenge. May you open your wings and fly. May Samarpan bring you back to life and beyond. Thank you so much.
So first and foremost, let me just thank you guys for coming out here on a Sunday. I know that would be a painstaking audience for me to do on any Sunday. So for all of you guys who made it here to support us on this day, thank you. A little bit about me. As Gayatri said earlier, I'm a physician, I'm a therapist. I've worn many hats in my life. And for the last 20 odd years or so, I've been working in the field of substance abuse and addiction. I went to med school in Bombay, I went to Nair Hospital, finished up with that, went abroad and got my master's in therapy, and people asked me, what do you specialize in? And I happen to specialize in something they call treatment of co-occurring disorders, which is when people have both an addiction and a mental health issue. And that sort of becomes a theme in my life, and I seem to live by this motto about how do you make life more complicated than it needs to be, as you will see in the next 5 minutes. So I decided to work with this population, and then for the next, I think 7, 8, 10 years, I was living in the US working in residential treatment, involved in outpatient treatment, residential treatment, advocacy, fundraising, all that wonderful stuff. And very abruptly, I decided to come back to India in 2010 to make my life more complicated than it needs to be. And then when I came back, I was gone for a decade, right? The decade in which there was massive transformation in India. The 2000s I was gone. And I came back here and I set up private practice. And the changes were astonishing in many, many levels. But if you just speak about the explosion of substance use, I started seeing stuff that I'd never seen before in the 90s. You saw kids who were younger and younger using substances and getting addicted. You saw women getting more and more issues. We saw older adults. You saw a wide variety of substances I'd never heard of on the streets of Bombay and all over town. And it was very, very difficult. See, there's always going to be an X amount of people who on outpatient basis will become good. But equally, for people in which the disease of substance abuse has progressed long enough, without a residential treatment stay, it becomes impossible. So I found myself working in private practice, getting increasingly frustrated that you do X amount of progress and you're just not getting to the point that you need to get to sustain people in recovery. And so this idea, and then over those years, the treatment industry in India was getting up to par. We weren't there yet. I was ending up sending a lot of people abroad. And this combination of stuff was really, really getting to me, And along with the 5 or 6 years ago, I met the Baldota family. And I think there was a resonance right there, because here was a bunch of people, very, very successful conglomerate, who had a very big passion for CSR, right? And they seemed to share this idea that the thinking that evolved is, why should anybody from India have to go abroad for treatment? As far as medical care goes, in the last 20 years, we've come to the point that people all over the world come here. Right? Why are we thinking small? Why are we not doing something on a scale? And that's how the idea was born. And then life got busy, and they got busy, and I got busy, and then in the middle of the pandemic, again to make life more difficult than it needs to be, at the start of the pandemic, we decided this is a good time to start a rehab, right? And so we started talks in 2020, and then we started our outpatient center last year, and it's been extremely rewarding. So what is it that we do? So the big misconception that a lot of people don't understand is that addiction is not bad behavior. Addiction is not a moral failure. Addiction is a biological disease. Right? And unless we start acknowledging that and treating it as a medical condition, we are going to make peripheral changes around the edges. Once you understand that, what you realize, a lot of people who've got addiction for over 8 or 10 years are not getting high anymore because they enjoy it. They're getting high because they don't want to feel terrible when they stop. Right? And so quite often, if a person has got a long-standing addiction for 10 years, 12 years, there's no way he's going to be able to sit at home and say, "Aaj se sab band." I wish it does happen that way. I have to pack my bags and move to Hawaii and live somewhere if that happens that way. But it does not happen that way. There is going to be a bunch of people, no matter what you try to do on an outpatient basis, are going to require residential treatment when they're away from the triggers, when they're away from the stresses in which they can heal and recover. So we started conceptualizing a program, which has 3 components. A pre-treatment phase, which is going to be in Mumbai, the rehabilitation phase, which I'm so happy to see so many people here today, and then the aftercare phase. And the whole pre-treatment phase is based on the idea, again, it's very rare that somebody with an alcohol problem, with a drug problem is going to knock on your clinic and say, "I want to stop." Right? 90% of the time there's a family member or a loved one who will come to you. And then we use evidence-based treatments called motivational enhancement therapy, in which you help the family how to engage the person and how to bring the person on board on the treatment. A certain percentage of those will actually get well outpatient, but definitely you will need a certain component of them will be rehab, and that program, when Martin comes up to speak, he will walk you through what we plan to do over here. The last component, which again will happen in ridiculous, right? So there is going to be this whole program, both in pre-treatment, rehabilitation and outpatient, that has individual counseling, group counseling as well as family therapy, supported by psychiatric care. I specialize in co-occurring disorders. 50% of people, approximately, depending on what study you look at, will have a coexisting anxiety, depression, bipolar condition. Right? And unless that is addressed, the chances of staying sober long term plummet. Right? So over the last couple of years, we spent a lot of time, I think, finding the right people. And I'm really, really grateful that I think in Dr. Ashish and Shweta and the entire team that we built here, Martin has come down from the UK and Thailand. I think we got the right combination of the Baldota family backing us with a vision, a treatment team.
Well, the dawn of new hope in addiction treatment, Samarpan. There is a line of a great French existentialist writer, which my friend Dushant reminded me yesterday, that it was in the harshest winter that I discovered that there was an invincible summer within me. It was in despair, in the dark night of despair, that the first ray of light descended on me. Call it grace, call it miracle. Having hit the rock bottom, having been very successful, having had back-to-back hits, and being talked about as the new Zafar Terrible of the film industry, who's going to steer the film industry into sparkling new spaces, I discovered that nothing fails like success. Having touched the peak of the first mountain of your personal goal, I discovered that there was gnawing emptiness. As John Steinbeck said, that there was, you're well fed but you're still hungry. You're warm but you still shiver. You're loved but you still look for love with a begging bowl outside. Something was missing, and that made me hit the bottom. Now I had, from the struggling young boy who had barely means to keep the wolf away from the door with a little girl like Pooja, my first wife, I had become a very successful man, and I had the means to destroy myself. I had the means, and I had the applause in the auditorium. Even when I got drunk and I behaved obnoxiously, people put up with me because I was a money-generating machine. So nothing failed the success. But then one day, when my daughter, second daughter, Shaheen was born, I came home drunk, having celebrated. And when I carried my child in my arm, I just felt that she turned her face away from me out of revulsion because my mouth stank. That's what I believed. That was and that was a moment of grace. After that, his 34 years have not touched a drop of alcohol. And then I set off on a journey. Cold turkey, I did not go to AA. I didn't go to a doctor. I felt that the powers that birthed me must have gifted me with everything that I had is there within me. I don't need to reach out. But that doesn't mean that somebody else should not. I do not want to put myself as a model and say that emulate me. But I walked this path alone. And then I birthed a film called Daddy, in which my darling Pooja made her foray at the age of 17, 16, 17. And then we began shooting for Daddy, and I had given up drinking, and I proclaimed to the world that I had given up drinking. And while we were shooting for Daddy, one night after my actors had gone, I used to give them drinks and not drink myself, because the sight of people drinking was still very comforting. And Pooja, the 17-year-old girl, having memorized her lines and rehearsed with her father for the next day, went to sleep. My wife was away, and I'd announced to the world that I'd given up drinking. And while I was putting the bottles away, I said to myself, nobody will know if I take a drink or two. I'm stressed out. Why not have a drink or two? The moment I said that, a voice within me erupted and said, you can lie to the world, you can lie to your little girl who's there, but how will you lie to yourself? And that was the day I was scorched from inside. And then I discovered what the great sage of India, Buddha, said, be a light unto yourself, Swayam Pramana, Swayam Prakasha. It's only when it burns inside of you, you can bring the best of bottles of alcohol. I wouldn't touch it. But still today I have nightmares that I've hit the bottle again and I've turned everything that I've done to ashes. But the irony that I think Pooja will talk about is that the child who frees the fictitious daddy in the movie Daddy of his alcohol addiction, years later herself became an alcoholic. That's another story. So that's the fictitious life which we weave on the screen and give you a happy ending. But then there is real life. And real life is hard, bitter, unforgiving. And at every curve of your life, you must remind yourself that if an alcoholic like me, I'm 34 years sober, if I touch a glass of beer now, I will be back where I started from. I'm delighted to see a quantum leap like this being taken here. It's a quantum leap. And Martin came to my house, I discovered that things are changing. Something has been fast-tracked in the last 2 years in the back. But there is a pandemic of despair. And I wonder, Martin, how are we going to deal with this growing despair that is there in people? There's a war out there in Ukraine. The world leaders have come down on their knees. Everything is in shambles. Our belief systems are scrambled. Our stories are not working. The WhatsApp inspiring messages wither away like the morning dewdrop. How the hell are you going to save that individual who's biologically predisposed towards substance abuse? As doctor said, that he is not a depraved human being. He's not an inferior human being. He's one of us. He can't deal with the despair. And so he takes to substance abuse, his self-medication. And will you have the compassion to look at him with that eye? Will you educate the world around him yourself? Look at him with a different eye. That these are the questions that will gnaw all of us. But here in the outskirts of Pune, when you start a thing like this, it's an oasis in a desert. And I only wish you the best, and I hope that you grow and you grow. But the truth is that truth does not require PR machinery. It's like fire. It spreads on its own. Why did Rahul seek me and Pooja out? Not because we are celebrities who tantalize you with our movies for some time. It's because we have suffered and climbed this mountain of sobriety, aware that any time we could fall down and be back to ground zero. So it's what we have lived. So great things come out of human suffering. Great things. The entire culture is born out of the womb of suffering. It is suffering that gives birth to great movements. As they say, that when a grain of sand gets into an oyster, the oyster, in order to escape from that pain, turns it into a pearl. Its intention is not to make the pearl, but to escape from the pain. So I see Samarpan comes out of your pain. It comes out of your pain. It's a beautiful pearl. It's for the world to marvel at, but it was born in suffering. It was born in the dark night of despair. So the answers will come from despair, not from bogus hopes, not from sound bites which are whipped up by politicians on the hour, by the hour, they insulate you from the reality. By confronting the hard reality, you may perhaps have a chance to usher in a new dawn. I congratulate you all for doing this. May you have more power to create more such oases all around the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your honest insights, Mr. Bhatt. We all stand encouraged by your experience. It's time for us to go back to the source, and thereby I would like to request Mr. Narendra Kumar Baldota to discuss with us the evolution of the Abhiraj Baldota Foundation.
Good morning. Shri Mahesh Bhatt, Srimati Pooja Bhatt, dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to warmly welcome you to the inauguration of Samarpan, the De-Addiction Center for Drugs and Alcohol. Firstly, I would like to start off by commending Shreni Veriji and the entire team of Samarpan for making this happen. This would not have been happened but for their vision, passion and determination. Their drive reminds me of my father, late Sri Abhiraj Baldota, who instilled in us the culture of giving back to the society. He founded the Baldota Group of companies in 1961 with starting with a small mines. Following his steps, we have lived up this journey of growing from a small mining company to a diversified business group with interest across mining, pellet making, wind energy, industrial gases, shipping, aviation and environmental system. This would not have been possible if we had not stayed true to our value of integrity and goodwill. Even though practicing it has come at a cost, such as when we refused to engage in corrupt practices, our mines were shut down for years. We still chose to remain honest and fought to the best of our abilities and overcome it. This time were hard, but we stood by the truth of the company and continued to support our employees, society and engaged in CSR activities. We moved towards sustainable mining and automation to ensure the well-being and safety of our employees and the future generation. Our CSR initiatives have been in various fields. In healthcare, we have contributed to Baldota Institute of Digestive Sciences, Abhiraj Baldota Cancer Detection Center in Mumbai, mobile endoscopy for Maharashtra and blood bank in hospital. As a part of our sustainable mining initiative, we have planted 19 lakh 80,000 trees. We have developed, we have trained.
Ms. Pooja Bhatt has been passionate about supporting various social causes. I would request her to please share her views with us on the need for rehabilitation.
Thank you, Gayatri, and thank you for that very generous introduction. You know me as a filmmaker, an actor, filmmaker, but I think that mic is off.
Yeah, we can hear.
But I think now, is that better? So my introduction always says Pooja Bhatt, actor, filmmaker, activist. But I would like to put right on top there Pooja Bhatt, recovering alcoholic addict. Let me begin to say hi, I'm Pooja Bhatt and I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for 5 years and 3 months and I'm damn proud of that. Like my father said, and he's a tough act to follow, 34 years sober, wow. I'm still in my infancy in more ways than one. But yes, my introduction came from a film called Daddy, and I was happy when before we came on the dais and we were talking about it. I'm glad that it still touches people so many years later, because I think it was based on truth. Like my father explained how the climax was rewritten because of what he lived. The irony was that I played a character, a girl who weans her father of alcohol, and I found myself at the age of 46. I was 17 when I did Daddy. I found myself in the same position. I was the alcoholic and I needed to be weaned of alcohol. I was aware that as a child of an alcoholic, I was 4 times more susceptible to becoming one myself. I have an eclectic mix of friends. Some are teetotalers, some are addicts, some are junkies. It's an interesting combination. But I always thought that, you know, this is not going to happen to me. I drank how I lived, openly and copiously, and I just thought that I'm on top of things. I'm in charge of my drinking issue. I'm not that addict that other people are. And the intervention came at a point in my life where I wasn't really looking for one, perhaps. And my father never asked me to stop drinking. He always believed that who is he to tell me or to preach to me what to do when he's done something himself. So people asked him to kind of some way influence me to kind of get a hold of my drinking. And we were having a conversation on the phone via SMS, and he signed off with saying, "I love you, kid." And I said, "I love you too, Pops." And I added, I said, "And actually you're the only thing in my universe that's truly worth loving." And the line that came after that changed my life. Because it was not the words, it was what I read in them. And it said, if you love me, then love yourself. Because I live in you. And I'm sorry I'm getting emotional as always, because that's again a problem that I'm born with. But it was the spaces in between those words when I realized that if he lives in me, I have to be the best me. And how do I become the best me? By stopping to drink. What did I do that night? I went out and drank 3/4 of a bottle of Lafroig. Came home at 5:30 in the morning, tweeted perfectly. Nobody could tell whether I was falling asleep or waking up. I was a functional alcoholic. An absolutely functional alcoholic. I could drink. I had the privilege of being invited to a Navy event, and I sat there, looked at a room full of sailors, cadets to the highest brass, and I could say, you know what, I could drink all you sailors under the table, and I really could. He hasn't had that privilege. And I went to work and I made movies, and like he said, I was functional. I was paying the bills. I was supporting a husband. I was supporting a whole army of people, and nobody questioned me. But that night, I decided to put my phone on silent. It was Christmas Eve, and I sat with myself. And I heard Silent Night wafting in from the church next door. Sat with my 4 cats. I woke up on Christmas Day, a day I always associated with revelry and champagne and wine. And I felt like I conquered Mount Everest. Just being sober that one day. And then one day became 2 days and became 3 days. And I just felt that my feet were getting stronger. I felt like I loved myself more. then I realized that it was more difficult for me to stay sober in that sense, but I had to make more excuses for not drinking than I ever had to make for drinking. We live in times where social events, work meetings, weddings, anniversaries, you celebrate something, you pop a bottle of champagne. You are miserable, you have a drink to relax. And I was an awful reminder to a lot of people that they had a problem that they were unwilling to address. So yes, I had the privilege of a father at home who set it off in me, allowed me to accept the grace by that one line that he sent me, but I also had relatives, I also had a parent who resented me for acknowledging that I had a problem. Because I was a reminder that they had a problem themselves and didn't want to face up to it. So you want to find out who your best friends are, get sober. You know. And at a time when I had people telling me, if you love me, you'll have a drink. It's my anniversary, have a drink. Come on, I just had a baby, have a drink. Come on, you can crack it. You've been sober for 6 months, have a drink. I called up a place called Deepak Wines one day. I was one of their best customers. It's in Pali Hill, by the way. If anyone doesn't have an alcohol problem, call them. And a friend of mine had come over, and I don't keep alcohol, but I'm happy to serve it to you. And I called them, and the guy picked up the phone, and I said, hello. He said, हाँ ma'am. So I said, हाँ, red wine है. So he said, किसको चाहिए? तो I said, मेरे दोस्त आ रहे हैं, red wine है. मैं नहीं पी रही हूँ, मैंने शराब छोड़ दी. And he said, हाँ मैंने पढ़ा था पेपर में कि आपने छोड़ दी, और जब ये आपका फ़ोन आया, मैंने आपकी आवाज़ सुनी तो मेरा दिल घबरा गया. And I was so moved by that. So I said, the kindness of strangers, a man whose livelihood depends on selling me alcohol, and I was one of his best customers. But he didn't want me to stop drinking. And they were my very own who wished that I would fall, wished that I would stumble, wished that I would kind of just take that bit so they could say, see, we knew it wouldn't last forever. But I think what I did, and I was born again with that affliction, but I was born with that switch where I said no, and then I stayed on course. I made the world my AA class. I felt, and I often asked him, I said, if daddy was made from the female perspective, would society give a woman the opportunity or the privilege of leaving her child home because she's an alcoholic and coming back after 17 years to claim her baby? Society would not give us that opportunity. So I think that women drink in private, and we don't dare acknowledge our flaws, because even alcoholism एक मर्द की जागीर है. Recovery is a male privilege. Talking about your weaknesses, your scars, your frailties is a male privilege in India. And I thought that I owed it to people to tell them that, you know what, if this could happen to me, it's going to happen to you. But if I could recover, you can too. And I just felt that we need to end the stigma. The pandemic was devastating for all of us. Suicide, mental health, addiction was on a peak. And yet we lived in a country and a government that criminalized addicts, criminalized any sort of addictive behavior, took the discourse on mental health back into the boondocks with Sushant Singh Rajput's suicide. The unfortunate tragic event that happened became into a media fracas and circus, and took the whole discourse on mental health and addiction back into the dark ages. And I think that a society that does not acknowledge that, unfortunately, when a society is broken, the reason that governments can't win the war on drugs is because drugs work. That bottle of alcohol would give me more respite than my broken marriage, than all the men I had met, or the career highs or lows. The truth is that the alcohol delivered, people did not, society did not. So I blotted myself out in it. So I just feel that we need to be able to share each other's frailties more, to be able to celebrate them. I'm often told on Twitter, what do you know, you're an alcoholic? And I'm like a recovering alcoholic and proud of it. And I choose to belong to those people, to that group of people who hold my frailties to light. When you talk about the dawn of new hope, I am not the darkness I have endured. I am the light that I refuse to surrender. And I'm happy to be part of this, honored to be able to come and add my little light, my little spark to this new dawn, because I feel that addiction is not a moral weakness. It's not, you're not a criminal if you're an addict. Why should rehabilitation and why should weaning off alcohol or any substance seem like a prison sentence. So I think when you have a facility like this, a center like this, it's so beautiful to be able to be with nature. It brings dignity back to that process of healing. And don't we just want that? Is human dignity. When we are most frail, when we are most broken, to have somebody look at us as human and say, why does it hurt so much? Not why do you drink? Where does it hurt? Can I take that pain away? And I think this space allows that. So I think that I'm just really glad this is happening, and I just think that we owe each other this. We owe each other more such facilities. I hope you all grow from this. I hope this is not only one center. And I just feel, end the stigma, talk more, share more, air your grief. Internal bleeding is far more dangerous, and you just need to be able to bleed. You need to be able to kind of share. Because if there's one person out there who can look at your journey and say that, what, if she could do it, I can do it, then I think it's a life worth lived. So, thank you. And, moving on to not surrendering the darkness and to just being this blaze and healing and sharing and recovering and touching more lives, to be able to pass that message on. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bhatt. Your journey has been a ray of light for many. Thank you for your honest and motivating encouragement. I now request Mr. Martin Peters to shed some light on the Samarpan Residential Rehab Program.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests of honour, thank you for taking the time today to visit our wonderful centre. I feel very privileged to be here today and to follow the inspiring speeches about Samarpan's journey, as well as our distinguished guests' own personal journeys. It's a little bit daunting following that, so I would please bear with me. I'm probably not going to be as inspiring. Firstly, I'd like to say that addiction does not discriminate. It's a disease that has significant impacts upon our societies across the world, and there may be differences in what people may use, from bankers in London with cocaine and champagne, to the farmer in Thailand with his rice wine and yaba. But the consequences of it are all too real for many of us. From a personal perspective, I've seen friends and family suffer from the ravages of addiction, and have seen the destruction and sadness that it brings to those families and loved ones, who are often unable, despite their best efforts, wishes, and interventions, to change that path. Personally, I lost my stepfather to alcoholism around about 3 years ago. To see a previously in the grander scheme of things, preferring to continue with the failed war on drugs, punitive approaches, criminalisation, that really serve no purpose other than to look tough and maybe to appeal to some base voters. As an example, physical health outcomes such as cirrhosis of the liver, heart disease, diabetes, as well as absenteeism, road traffic accidents, and various behavioural and mental health outcomes as well. The WHO recognised in 2005, and I'm sorry that I haven't got the exact figures of what they are now. I'm sure they probably will be increasing given the pandemic, but 3.2% of the world's deaths are alcohol related. So let that sink in. That's a significant amount of people every year. In 2005, alcohol, and between 10 to 15% of people with alcohol related problems commit suicide. This should alone give an indication of the impact of alcohol. We know from years of research and data collection that drug and alcohol use, and not necessarily around alcohol, but this is a US figure. 8.7% of 8th graders have used illicit drugs in the last month. 21.3% of 8th graders have tried illicit drugs at least once. By the time they're in 12th grade, 46.6% of teens have tried illicit drugs. In India have not been kind. And we will be guided by a dietitian and nutritionist to ensure that we provide the right types of food. The programme will be broken down into 5 phases of treatment so that we can track all of our clients' progress in treatment, and along with a link back to our post-rehab outpatient services. Some of our clients will stay longer than 4 weeks, some 8 weeks, maybe some for 12, and it will always be based on clinical need. I'd like once again to thank everyone here that has spoken, and also a special thanks to Mr. Shrenik as well for giving me this opportunity to lead this programme. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for your insights, and thanks Pooja Bhatt and Mr. Narendra Kumar Baldota to please come forward for the unveiling of the plaque.
एक सेकंड हाँ जानो सर आइए तो हाँ है नहीं है सर वाइट हो 5 मिनट चलिए
Thank you so much, sir. I'd now like to invite on stage Ms. Rashmi Baldota to honor our chief guest with a small token of appreciation. And I'd also like to invite on stage Ms. Lavina Baldota.
मैम बैठिए टेबल पहले जोड़ो साथ में टेबल जोड़ना पड़ेगा ना हाँ जोड़ो
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We can all proceed for lunch now. Thank you.
तो मोहब्बत को देख के एहसास हुआ कि पहली बेटी पहली बेटी जैसे आप कितना भी कहते रहे सब बच्चे समान पूजा आपसे पूछना चाहूँगा जी आपने कहा कि वो दर्द वो तकलीफ पूछने वाला कोई नहीं जी आपने जब आप इतना खुल के और इतने ओपन मुझे लगता है भट्ट साहब के बच्चे ही बोल सकते हैं कि हाँ हमने गलत किया हम कबूल करते हैं When it started, you know, एक शेर है कि गम का दौर हो या खुशी समा बांधती है शराब आपने किस दौर में शुरू
जी I think that I was very lucky कि मैंने ये एक
एक्सेप्ट कर लिया कि मुझे एक इंटरवेंशन की ज़रूरत है। लोग ज़िंदगी बिता देते हैं और डिनाइल में रहते हैं और अपने आप को एडमिट ही नहीं करते हैं कि शायद हमारी डिपेंडेंस जो है हैवॉक प्ले कर रही है, सिर्फ ना सिर्फ हमारी खुद की ज़िंदगी में मगर अपने सराउंडिंग्स और फैमिली की ज़िंदगी में भी। एंड आई थिंक कि हम एक सोसाइटी में रहते हैं, एक हिंदुस्तानी एक आदत है कि बाहर जाके चीज़ ना बोले जो घर में होता है। दर्द जो है ये चीज़ को कारपेट के नीचे आप छुपा दें, सच ना बोले, बाहर झूठ बोलो, दुनिया को, अपने आप को भी झूठ बोलो। लड़की की अगर शादी टूट जाती है, अगर उसका पति उसको पीटता है, 90% ऑफ द टाइम लोग बोलते हैं कि सह लो, आपकी तो किस्मत है ये, क्योंकि लोग क्या कहेंगे। तो औरतें जो हैं वो छुप के पीते हैं, तो रिकवरी कैसे खुलकर करेंगे। तो मुझे लगा कि जब भी मैंने ये अपने आप को कह दिया पहले कि हाँ आई हैव अ प्रॉब्लम, एंड लाइक आई सेड कि हाँ मेरे घर में महेश भट्ट है जो बहुत ही सपोर्टिव है। उन्होंने खुद उस द जर्नी ऑफ फायर, द पाथ ऑफ फायर ही इज़ वॉकड ऑन। मगर मेरे खुद के घर में वैसे भी लोग हैं जो डिनाइल में आज भी हैं अपने खुद के एडिक्शन के बारे में। तो जैसे स्टार्ट साउंड और कट के बीच में वो शायद कि जितने भी अच्छे डायरेक्टर हों आपको खुद शॉट देनी पड़ती है ना। एडिक्शन में लोग आपको एक पाथ पर लेके जा सकते हैं, बट यू हैव टू वॉक दैट पाथ ऑन योर ओन। आई हैव टू इंड्योर एवरी डे अलोन। एंड कोविड पैंडेमिक, उसके बीच में जब भी एक वायरस को हमें एक साथ लाना चाहिए था, हिंदुस्तानी लोगों की ये खासियत है कि उसी टाइम पे एक दूसरे को मारो, पीटो, जलील करो। मेंटल हेल्थ, डिप्रेशन, सुसाइड, एडिक्शन, आई थिंक मीडिया ने बहुत ज़्यादती की है हिंदुस्तान के साथ में, हमारे नौजवान के साथ में। जब भी सुशांत सिंह राजपूत की ट्रैजिक डेथ हुई थी, मेंटल हेल्थ का जो डिस्कोर्स था, एडिक्शन का जो डिस्कोर्स था, बहुत लोगों ने उसे एक्सप्लॉइट करके देव टेकन द इशू इनटू द डार्क एजेस के लोग डर गए थे कि हम हेल्प कैसे मांगेंगे, हमको क्रिमिनलाइज किया जाएगा। सो आई थिंक दैट इट इज़ प्लेसेस लाइक दिस वे यू गेट होप एंड यू रियलाइज़ कि एक तो जैसे डॉक्टर ने कहा कि एडिक्शन जो है, चाहे आप शराबी हो या यू हैव अ सब्सटेंस अब्यूज प्रॉब्लम, वो एक मॉरल फेलियर नहीं है, आप क्रिमिनल नहीं हो, वो एक बायोलॉजिकल एक इलनेस है। एंड ये शेम का जो कल्चर है ना कि आप यू जस्ट शट पीपल आउट, यू शेम देम इनटू साइलेंस, ये शेम शब्द आप निकाल दें तो बेहतर होगा, फिर एक साथ कहीं पहुँचेंगे एज ए सोसाइटी। सो लोग मुझे बहुत, आपको क्या आता है, आप कैसे बोल सकते हैं, आप तो एक अल्कोहलिक है। तो मैं कहती हूँ रिकवरिंग अल्कोहलिक हूँ, एंड आई एम वेरी प्राउड ऑफ इट। आप छुपाएं अपने दर्द को, आप दुनिया को कुछ और दिखाएं और ज़िंदगी कुछ और जिएं। मैं ऐसी ज़िंदगी नहीं जीने वाली हूँ। जैसे भट्ट साहब ने मुझे बहुत पहले कहा था कि हम वो होते हैं जो हम छुपाते हैं। तो मैंने दुनिया को अपना एक अल्कोहलिक्स एनोनिमस क्लास बना दिया, क्योंकि मुझे लगा कि ये बहुत ज़रूरी था लोगों को कहना, जो मेरे फैंस हैं, जो लोग मुझे चाहते हैं, ख़ासतौर के औरतों को, कि अगर ये मेरे साथ हो सकता था तो आपके साथ भी हो सकता है। और अगर मैं रिकवर कर सकती थी, आज मैं 5 साल सोबर हूँ, तो आप भी कर सकते हैं, आप भी छोड़ सकते हैं। क्योंकि मैं खुलकर शराब पीती थी, तो मैंने बोला कि मैं छुप के फिर रिकवर क्यों करूँ। आप क्यों मुझे बोलेंगे कि आप छुप के रिकवर करो, शेम क्या है इसमें। तो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू बी ashamed of my afflictions, of my frailties। मेरे frailties मेरे strengths है। मैं अपने scars को खुलकर खुलेआम पहन के, गहने की तरह पहन के घूमूंगी, सर उठा के घूमूंगी, and I hope more people do the same।
Where does honesty come from?
It's a genetic flaw, but like I said कि we can look out of the same window but we don't see the same view। I think कि just because आप एक घर में पैदा हुए हैं, आपके माँ बाप ये हैं, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप सारे ट्रेट्स आप इनहेरिट करते हैं। तो नेपोटिज्म के बारे में बात करते हैं, क्योंकि आपके पिताजी एक फिल्म मेकर है या एक कलाकार है, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि वो टैलेंट या ऑनेस्टी की जीन आपके अंदर भी पैदा होगी।
डॉक्टर साहब, somebody like Bhatt साहब, one of the fantastic human being I would say, instead of telling him a good director or producer, जब इस तरह की शख्सियत आती है और आपके इनिशिएटिव को सपोर्ट करती है, do you think half the battle is won? Somebody like Pooja Bhatt and Mahesh Bhatt साहब,
battle will be definitely won, because here is the example. We are not simply talking and preaching. Here are the people who are proudly saying, yes, we were and what we are, and we are not ashamed of it. We want you also to follow us. So this is how it gives courage.
भट्ट साहब आपसे जानना चाहूँगा ऑन अ वेरी लाइटर नोट, और मैं चाहूँगा मैं जो पूछना चाह रहा हूँ वही बात आप तक पहुँचे। जब मैं हिंदी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री की बात करता हूँ तो पूजा ने भी कई बार जिक्र किया सुशांत का, और उसका जिस तरह से तमाशा बनाया गया सबको पता है। लेकिन इंडस्ट्री एक ऐसी जगह है जहाँ हर दूसरा आदमी डिप्रेशन में है, फिल्म मिल नहीं मिली, काम छूट गया, इतने दिन से स्ट्रगल चालू है, ऑडिशन के लिए जा रहा है और पोर्टफोलियो लेके घूम रहा है। और कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं, जैसे पूजा ने ये भी कहा कि बहुत से लोग ऐसे हैं जिन्हें पता है ये परेशानी है लेकिन बोलना नहीं है। और मैं ऐसा मानता हूँ, जब मैं एलिट सोसाइटी की बात करता हूँ, शायद ये सबसे माकूल जगह रहेगी वो आएँ, और क्योंकि एक लाइफस्टाइल जीते हैं आप। इस बारे में आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे कि आई फील समवेयर समर्पण कहीं ना कहीं वो बहुत इंटेलेक्चुअल क्लास के लिए भी है। आई डोंट नो हाउ करेक्ट आई एम।
नहीं, मेरे ख्याल में समर्पण एक सोच है, एक व्यक्ति की दर्द से इसका विस्फोट हुआ है। इसलिए कहता हूँ कि दर्द की कोख से ही हर बड़ी बात का जन्म होता है, और उसमें ऊर्जा इतनी है कि ये सोच, अगर आज हम यहाँ इकट्ठे हुए हैं और हम मुंबई से आए हैं संडे को, इसलिए आए क्योंकि हमको लगता है कि ये जो दिशा जो है ये सही दिशा इन्होंने पकड़ी है, जहाँ पर ये चलकर एक एग्जाम्पल बनना चाहते हैं कि रिकवरी जो है वो एक मल्टी फेस्ड एक प्रोग्राम के ज़रिए ही आप अपने आप को वापस ज़िंदगी से जोड़ पाएंगे। अब ये कहना कि क्योंकि ये एक तबके के लिए ही ये फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल है, ये सच्चाई तो है, मगर क्या वो वहीं तक सीमित हो रहेगी? मेरे ख्याल में नहीं। अगर इनका आप इतिहास उठा के देखें तो ये बात इनकी शुरू हुई यहाँ से, इनकी बात शुरू हुई यहाँ से, मगर देखिए अच्छी बात जो होती है वो फिर आग की तरह फैलती है। यही लोग हैं जो आगे चल के इसको बहुत ही रीजनेबल पैकेजेस में और लोगों के लिए भी अवेलेबल, ये पूरा जो स्ट्रक्चर इन्होंने पैदा किया है। मार्टिन साहब की मैंने जब तकरीर सुनी तो मैं तो चौंक गया कि ये आपके दिल में सिर्फ प्रेम से आप समाज की समस्या नहीं हल कर सकते, ज्ञान की आवश्यकता है। क्योंकि अगर आपका बच्चा बीमार होता है, बच्चे से प्यार तो बहुत करते हैं, मगर इलाज तो डॉक्टर ही करेगा ना, जिसके पास ज्ञान होता है। तो एक शिद्दत हमारे दिल में है, हमारे अंदर एक जज्बा है, मगर जब वो राहुल वाजपेयी हैं या मार्टिन साहब हैं या बाकी जो डॉक्टर साहब हैं, उनकी सपोर्ट से ये जब ये एक मूवमेंट आप यहाँ पर जन्म देंगे तो ये इसकी नकल करने वाले लोग भी पैदा हो जाएंगे। हर अच्छे काम की मी टूइज़म शुरू हो जाती है, तो समाज को फ़ायदा ही होगा इससे। और मगर सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट बात यह है कि ये एक जहनी या मॉरल फेलियर नहीं है, ये जिस्मानी बीमारी है। और जिस तरह आप डायबिटीज़ को ट्रीट करते हैं, जिस तरह आप अस्थमा को ट्रीट करते हैं, उसी तरह से आपको एक एडिक्ट को देखना चाहिए। उसको अगर आप उस नज़र से देखेंगे और वो छुपाते हुए अपनी ज़िंदगी गुजारेगा, तो ये हार 21वीं सदी के दूसरे डेकेड में, जब दुनिया में, विश्व में अभी आप उस कगार पे आ गए हैं जहाँ पर एक न्यूक्लियर हॉलोकॉस्ट की संभावना है, तो एक पैंडेमिक का ऑफ डिस्पेयर, उसमें सब्सटेंस अब्यूज़ की तरफ आदमी झुकेगा। तो ये छोटे मोटे जो आपको लगते हैं काम, ये बहुत बड़े काम हैं। जैसे पहाड़ पर कहीं पर आग लगती है तो दूर से नज़र आता है कि आग लग रही है, तो ये शायद समर्पण वो काम करेगा कि कहीं पर उम्मीद है, कुछ लोग इकट्ठा होकर उन्होंने एक प्रोग्राम को जन्म दिया है, और अगर वो आकर इनसे पूछेंगे क्या ये कहेंगे आप चले जाएँ ऐसे? नहीं, मेरे ख्याल में ज्ञान ये ऐसी रोशनी है जो यहाँ तक सीमित नहीं है। रोशनी जब सूरज उगता है तो उसकी रोशनी जानवर पे भी फैलती है और राजा पे भी फैलती है, तो ये तो होगा।
यहाँ पर मेरा ये कहना है कि ये एलाइट के लिए ही नहीं है। अभी हम एक मेडिकल कॉलेज खोलते हैं तो सबके लिए खोलते हैं, उसमें आप कहेंगे कि नीचे के स्तर के लोग नहीं आ सकते, उनको कैसे मदद करके स्कॉलरशिप देके फ्रीशिप देके भी मदद की जा सकती है, लेकिन आपको मेडिकल कॉलेज खोलना पड़ेगा। वैसे हमने एक कोशिश की है, अभी इसमें हम कैसे बाकी के लोगों को मदद कर सके वो भी हमारा उद्देश्य रहेगा, ताकि यह नहीं कि खाली एलाइट लोगों को। लेकिन आज एलाइट लोगों का प्रॉब्लम क्या था, ऐसी ये फैसिलिटी इंडिया में नहीं थी जो हम देना चाहते हैं। इतने टॉप क्लास की है, वो हम देना चाहते हैं। तो यहाँ से शुरुआत होगी और बाकी सबको मिलेगा।
नो, आई वाज जस्ट ट्राइंग टू से दैट दैट्स एग्जैक्टली इट, कि यही परसेप्शन को तोड़ना है कि रिकवरी एक प्रिजन सेंटेंस, जेल टर्म नहीं है। हम डी एडिक्शन फैसिलिटीज़ को डिस्कम्फर्ट, डार्क डैंक प्लेसेस जो अपीलिंग नहीं है उसके साथ जोड़ते हैं, मगर नहीं। अगर आपने रिकग्नाइज किया है कि आपको एक प्रॉब्लम है और आप हेल्प चाहते हैं, आधे लोग जो है हेल्प ही नहीं मांगते हैं। और आपको पता है कि ऐसा एक जगह है जहां हम डिग्निटी के साथ में एक ऐसे माहौल में रिकवर हो सकते हैं जहां पे रिकवरी इज़ फन। देयर इज़ अ मल्टी प्रोंग्ड अटैक where people are approaching the physical, the mental, you know, the holistic, then I think a lot more people लोग recovery और de-addiction से डरेंगे नहीं।
बात
तो यही तो
निकलेगी
बात है
तो बहुत दूर तक जाएगी
कि हमें एक प्रॉब्लम हो गया है सोसाइटी के we've accepted suffering as our norm. It's not, we are not addicts are not criminals. So it's okay not to go to a beautiful place like this, कि आप एक अच्छे साफ सुथरे रूम में, ब्यूटीफुल बाथरूम में, दिस इज स्विमिंग पूल, दिस इज योगा क्लास, न्यूट्रिशियस फूड. Why do we feel we don't deserve that? Why do we feel that addicts don't deserve that? Why जेल क्यों भेजना है उनको? एक डार्क सेल में क्यों मारना है जहाँ पे रोशनी नहीं है? It's the rise of a new dawn, and new dawn begins with treating yourself right.
पूजा, आज अब तक की जर्नी के लिए, जब आपने कहा, आपने बहुत सी बातें कही, मैं सुन रहा था, आप जज्बाती भी हुई, भट्ट साहब भी कहीं मैं देख रहा था, उनको बड़ा गौर कर रहा था, वो भी थोड़ी बातें इस पूरे सफ़र का आज जहाँ आप हैं, एक पूरा आपने वक्त दिया, उस लत को छोड़ा जहाँ आप नेवी के धुरंधरों को हरा के आती हैं तो अब, और आपने ये भी कहा कि जो आपको ऐसे सोबर कबूल कर रहा है वही आपके दोस्त हैं। इस जर्नी के लिए भट्ट साहब को छोड़ के किसी और क्रेडिट देना चाहेंगे?
दीपक वाइन्स का जो लड़के ने फ़ोन उठाया और वो रैंडम स्ट्रेंजर जिसकी मतलब रोजी रोटी शराब बेचने पे डिपेंडेंट है, और जब भी उसने मुझे बोला कि पूजा जी आपका फ़ोन आया, मेरा दिल घबरा गया कि मैंने पढ़ा था कि आप अखबार में कि आपने शराब छोड़ दी, और मेरा दिल घबरा गया। तो मैंने बोला यार इसको तो उस कंसर्न होने की ज़रूरत क्या है? जब भी मेरे खुद के लोग, खुद के दोस्त चाहते थे कि यार पार्टी है पी लो, एनिवर्सरी है पी लो, तो आई थिंक कि addiction, alcoholism is a very selfish journey. Recovery has to be as selfish. It has to be selfish. अगर कोई भी ऐसा शख्स है, चाहे आपके माँ बाप, लवर, पति, बच्चे हैं, जो आपको कहीं ना कहीं आपके कोर्स से स्टीयर करके वापस वहीं पे ले जाएंगे, लात मार के उनको हटा दो आपकी जर्नी से. You have to be, if addiction is selfish, recovery has to be more selfish. And I think हमको ये चीख चीख के बोलना है, खास तौर को औरतों को, कि ये मर्द की जागीर नहीं है. आप ये शराबी बनी है, डैडी बनी है, मेल पर्सपेक्टिव से बनाइए फिल्म, फीमेल पर्सपेक्टिव से, फीमेल अल्कोहलिज्म के बारे में बात करें आप. एंड लाइक मार्टिन ने कहा कि कोविड की तरह अल्कोहलिज्म, एडिक्शन आपके बैंक बैलेंस को नहीं देखता है. It afflicts a woman sitting in Kerala, somebody sitting in a high-rise apartment, somebody who works as a maid servant somewhere. So I think eventually वो आपको उसी level पे ले आता है, which is why when you go to an AA class, it's very humbling to see कि अरे यार आप भी all walks of life are covered, and you realize what binds you is your wretched humanness. So I think it's important कि हम addiction को एक तो accept करें. कोविड के दौरान डोमेस्टिक अब्यूज़, जैसे कहते हैं कि वाइफ बीटिंग विदाउट अल्कोहल इज़ लाइक अ सर्कस विदाउट लायंस. आप शराब को इक्वेशन से निकाल दें, 90% डोमेस्टिक अब्यूज़ के केसेस आपके कम हो जाएंगे. एक्सीडेंट्स होते हैं शराब के इन्फ्लुएंस के अंडर. अल्कोहल इज़ अ ड्रग. द गवर्नमेंट विल नॉट एक्नॉलेज दैट बिकॉज इट्स प्रॉफिटेबल टू देम. So the point is that if you have the capacity to be able to have a drink or two and stop, and it does not mess up your life and everybody around you, wonderful, by all means. मेरे अंदर वो चिप नहीं है, बहुत सारे लोगों में चिप नहीं है, so you have to acknowledge that. मगर आधा बैटल तो वही है, पहले अपने आप को कह दो यार कि मेरा प्रॉब्लम है, फिर हेल्प मांगिए. हेल्प इज़ अवेलेबल, डोंट बी अशेम्ड. तो ये स्टिग्मा हटा दें, ये शेमिंग की जो आदत है हमारी हिंदुस्तानी की, जो खासियत है कि आप क्यों गए, आपने क्यों किया. यूक्रेनियन स्टूडेंट्स को भी शेम कर दो, अल्कोहलिक को भी शेम कर दो. एक औरत जो मतलब जब शादी टूटती है और वो खुद के बलबूते पे फिर से चल लेती है, उसको भी शेम कर दो. तो आप डराना बंद कर दो यार, क्योंकि हम डरने नहीं वाले हैं.
आपने भी जिक्र किया, यहाँ बनाऊंगा फिल्म, फिल्म बननी चाहिए इस बहुत
बस
सेंसिटिव
करेगा कि नहीं करेगा?
नहीं मैं आखिरी कर रहा हूँ बट सब अपन लगता है कि बहुत सेंसिटिव बहुत संजीदा मुद्दा है कि लोग कह नहीं पाते कहेंगे तो लोग
देखिए बहुत अहम बात पूजा ने कही है कि ये दृष्टि जो है कहीं पर महिला के पर्सपेक्टिव से भी हमको ये पूरे इशू को देखना चाहिए, क्योंकि अक्सर हमको लगता है कि सारे प्रॉब्लम जो हैं ये सिर्फ मर्दों के हैं। तो ये हमारी बहुत ही जो गरीब लोगों की जो अब जैसे हमारे कलोटे में आदिवासी विलेज है, वहाँ की औरतें शराब पीती हैं और वो एडिक्ट्स हैं, तो उनकी भी तो एक दास्तान है। तो ये जेंडर ये की परवाह नहीं करता, इससे कोविड होता है, मर्द को भी होता है, औरत को भी होता है। तो ये ज़रूरी है कि एंटरटेनमेंट के स्पेस में अगर आप ये बात इसको टैकल करना चाहें तो विदेश में हॉलीवुड ने किया था, एक मैगराइन की फिल्म थी मेरे ख्याल में, जहाँ पर वो एक फीमेल पर्सपेक्टिव से
they've been many movies made on
तो ये सही बात कही है। नहीं तो ये बात हम टैकल करते नहीं, क्योंकि पहले तो बात माननी पड़ती है कि हाँ साहब ये बात एग्जिस्ट करती है।
हाँ, अपने आप को कहना पड़ता है।
मानोगे तो फिर उसको कहीं पर जुर्रत करके कहानी में उतारोगे और फिर 10 लोग आके रोकेंगे क्या घर की बात जाके बाहर कर रहे हो। तो हमारी तो पूरी ज़िंदगी यही है कि तुम घर की अपनी बात जाके बाहर क्यों बोलते, भैया हम अपनी बात नहीं बोलेंगे कि उसकी बात बोलेंगे।
और ये फैलेसी है कि सिर्फ फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में लोग शराब पीते हैं और सब्सटेंसेस को अब्यूज करते हैं, क्योंकि आज के दौर में लोग इतने पैरानॉइड है अपने लुक्स को लेके, दे लीड अ फार हेल्थियर लाइफस्टाइल। बट गो इनटू अ लाइफ, जस्ट गो इनटू लाइफ एंड
चलें, हो गया मेरे ख्याल में।
थैंक यू।
अरे वो बोलो